White House is very concerned this morning as it really seems like the walls are closing in on Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth as bipartisan calls for him to step down for his resignation are growing. And the president of the United States is lashing out publicly at reporters, publicly at some of his closest allies, including Fox News. We learned overnight that, well, the boat strikes that happened in the Southern Caribbean were a lot likely more illegal than we previously knew. CNN has confirmed that essentially the boats that were struck on September 2nd, well, that boat wasn't heading to the United States of America. It was actually heading to Suriname, which means that it actually posed no threat to the United States. And yet the military shot the boat anyway and killed all of the people on the boat, including the two survivors who clung to the side of it as the boat itself was engulfed in flames. This is a very serious update, so I need your help to spread the word, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Consider subscribing to my Substack by clicking the link below to support my work. CNN has now confirmed from Natasha Bertrand that the United States military struck the boat 4 times. The first time splitting the boat in half and leaving two survivors clinging to a capsized portion. The second, third, and fourth strikes killed them and sunk the vessel. But that's not all. The survivors were also waving something in the air. Well, it's unclear whether they were surrendering or asking the US aircraft that they had spotted for help, but they were waving. They weren't running from anyone, they were waving for help, and we killed them anyway. The drug traffickers allegedly were on their way to link up with another larger vessel that was bound for Suriname, a small South American country east of Venezuela. That's according to Admiral Bradley. According to intelligence collected by U.S. forces, the struck boat planned to rendezvous with the second vessel and transfer drugs to it. Bradley said during the briefings, but the military was unable to locate the second vessel. Bradley argued that there was still a possibility that the drug shipment could have ultimately made its way from Suriname to the United States. Those sources say that striking the smaller boat, even if it wasn't directly heading to the United States at the time it was hit, and therefore that's how it was justified. But let me just put this for you into perspective. These boats were not heading to the United States. They were heading to another country, the country of Suriname. It's far from the United States. It's not close, right? And despite all Republicans telling us for days that, well, the threat that was posed by the boat was the fact that it was transporting drugs to the United States, that's just not true. That's just not true. And let's look at the map. The United States up here in Miami, right? Look where Suriname is. Go to South America, see Venezuela, 3 countries to the right, there's Suriname. It wasn't heading westward to the United States, the boat, or north. It was heading eastward. It was going away from the United States of America, not towards the United States of America. Therefore, at the time of the strike, the boat actually posed zero threat to the United States of America. And not just that, what's compounding it is the fact that the people on the boat were waving to the American military. Were they waving to surrender? Were they waving for help? Either way, these were shipwrecked individuals who did not deserve legally to be struck under international law. And now, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is facing bipartisan calls for his resignation. Senator Patty Murray, the Democratic vice chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, called for Hegseth's firing following a bipartisan briefing. Between overseeing this campaign in the Caribbean, risking U.S. service members' lives by sharing war plans on Signal, and so much else, it could not be more obvious that Secretary Hegseth is unfit for the role, and it is past time for him to go. The new Democratic coalition, which is the largest Democratic caucus in the House with 116 members who describe themselves as fiscally moderate and pro-innovation, issued their own statement, calling Hegseth incompetent, reckless, and a threat to the lives of the men and women who serve in the armed forces. Brad Schneider and Jill Cisneros accused the defense secretary of lying, deflecting and scapegoating subordinates while refusing to take accountability. Time and time again, the secretary has lied, dodged, deflected, and shockingly scapegoated his subordinates. He is disgraced to the office he holds and should resign immediately before his actions cost American lives. And it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans too. Senator Rand Paul suggested that Hegseth had lied about the September boat attack, saying that either the defense secretary was lying to us or he's incompetent and didn't know that it happened. Congressman Don Bacon, a Republican from Nebraska, says that he had seen enough to conclude that Hegseth was not the right leader for the Pentagon. So we're now in a situation where the Secretary of Defense is in a bind. In a bind. It looks as though the walls are seemingly closing in. Whether or not the President of the United States agrees, though, that's a question that remains to be seen. But Trump himself woke up this morning and, well, he was anything but happy. Let's look at what he was saying on Truth Social. First, he attacked his buddies at Fox News. Why would Fox and Friends Weekend, of all things, put on a stockbroker named Peter Schiff, a Trump hating loser who has already proven to be wrong? Either the show made a mistake or it is heading in a different direction. He thinks prices are going up when in fact, prices are coming substantially down. Gasoline hit $1.99 a gallon yesterday in certain states and is down big since Biden. Other prices are almost down. Biden caused the affordability crisis. I'm fixing it, along with everything else. Much of it, like the border, is already fixed. Check out the booker who put this jerk on. He then went on to attack Caitlin Collins, another female reporter, saying, Caitlin Collins, a fake news CNN. He misspelled Caitlin, by the way. It's K, not C. Always, quote, stupid and nasty, asked me why the new ballroom was costing much more money than originally thought 1 year ago. I said because it's going to be double the size, and the quality of finishes and interiors have been brought to the highest level. Also, the column span has been substantially increased for purposes of viewing. It is actually under budget and ahead of schedule, as my jobs always are. It's just much bigger and more beautiful than originally planned. Interestingly and seldom reported, there are no taxpayer dollars involved. It is being fully paid for by private donations, fake news CNN, and the guy who runs the whole corrupt operation that owns it is one of the worst in the business. The ratings are so low that they're not even counted or relevant anymore. MAGA. In other news, Donald Trump and the Trump administration has replaced free entry days at many national parks nationwide. So Juneteenth and MLK Jr. Previously, you could go to a national park for free, not anymore. But you know when you can now go? Donald Trump's birthday. They added June 14th, which is also Flag Day, as one of the free days for patrons to go to national parks, removing MLK Jr. Day and Juneteenth. And at the same time, calls for an investigation are growing after a Congresswoman, Adelita Grijalva, was pepper sprayed by ICE officials in Arizona in the past 24 hours. So, folks, that's all the news right now. I'm sure there'll be much more news throughout the day. I will obviously be bringing it to you when I can. So please consider subscribing to my Substack by clicking the link below to support my work. And I will see you very soon. And like, comment, share, and subscribe. Spread the word, because the more people that see this, the more people get real news. So see you soon.